younger. My older cousin, who I was like my role model, and I hung out with him all the time, and so he got into the electronic music scene before me, and he was spinning drum and bass and some house and breakbeats primarily. And this was back in '97 or something like that. So that was like my first entry to hearing dance music, and then it started getting a little more popular towards the end of the '90s when the rave culture was going on. And me and my friends, we would always go to these big events and just kind of fell in love with the music. And once I graduated high school, that's when I pretty much started learning how to DJ. Me and a buddy of mine that I've known for over 20 years, we started actually learning together. We spent like 8 hours a day cutting class and just spinning basically. And so that was how I originally got into it. And then, after a long time, I finally decided to dive into the production side of it, and been doing that now for, I think it's been about like 7 years now that I've been producing.
Awesome. So yeah, I've been a fan since the 90s. I was an early adapter
Gotcha.
in Trance. So, yeah, it's kind of how I fell in love. But then, life, you grow up and you find other music. So obviously I was following other music. But then I just fell back in love with it a few years ago. And I was just like, because I was following pop music for a while, and then I just got sick of that. And then fell back in love and was like, this is the stuff I used to love back in the day. Why did I neglect it all these? I didn't really neglect it, but I just wasn't paying as much attention maybe as I should have.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like you said, life happens, you get older, and so same thing happened with me, kind of got in and out of it here and there. I worked in corporate America, so music wasn't my full-time job basically until just about 4 years ago. That's when I decided to leave corporate America and just focus on music 110%. And so, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I ended up having to come back, as you said, but I never really left it. I just didn't have time to really work on it.
Right. It's funny how that happens, though, because, music that maybe you liked, but, you weren't, like, invested in at the time, but, you still kind of followed it.
For me, at that point, it was more of being, I guess, a fan and appreciating it and seeing all these DJs and their craft, and that kind of pushed me to, try to give it more attention, to give it 100% like I am now, and not, have to juggle this as a hobby as opposed to having, your regular 9-to-5 corporate job.
Right. So, obviously, I mean, we're in a day and age where I'm in that same boat where, I've been struggling, trying to figure out, keep that normal job or kind of pursue own avenues.
Right.
Because, and kind of have that balance between hobby or job, or make your hobby your job kind of a situation. So,
right, absolutely.
When did you decide, other than like you've been producing and on other labels like we mentioned in the beginning, when did you kind of decide about your own label?
It's kind of, I guess no one really knows, but several years ago, like probably over a decade ago, me and my buddy, we actually had a label. Unfortunately, it didn't end up going very far. We had, I think, like 4 artists signed, and then just ended up dissolving because we kind of lost touch and just got busy. Like you said, as you get older. So I always wanted to get back into starting a label. I know the frustrations that producers and artists get as I was submitting music to other labels, and, you don't hear from them, or you get shelved or pushed back to the end. And there was so much good music out there that I believe should be signed and heard, and that kind of forced me even more to go towards the route, start my label, and then so I can sign these new talent that's coming, and they're unbelievable. So it's been going great so far. It's extremely busy, busier than I had expected it to be, but it's going good though.
Right, and I appreciate you kind of sending me music to kind of review on the blog, because as you know, I like to find, not only do I love, you know, the big names, but I like highlighting those that may not be found.
Right, exactly.
So I think it's cool. Now, we've kind of had, through text and, you know, just over the years, kind of had a conversation about, like, trance in general and how there's, like, the subgenre.